Hello. I'm James, and I live in Manchester in the UK. And you're listening to English with a Brew, a podcast where I talk about different day-to-day topics to help you learn English the most natural way possible. And that is only by listening to it. If you want to support this podcast, read transcripts, and get exclusive access to more content, go to patreon.com/English with a Brew. So, as we say in Manchester, get a brew on and let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you all doing? I hope you're all well as always. In this episode, I'm going to talk about a place, a beautiful place that I love a lot called the Lake District. In fact, I have just returned from a weekend trip to the Lake District, which has inspired this episode. The Lake District is a national park here in England, but it's not just any national park. It's the largest national park in England. Not the UK, but all of England. It's situated in the north of England, and from Manchester, where I live, it takes between 1 and 2 hours in the car to get there, depending on which part of the national park I'm travelling to. It might seem obvious because of the name, but it's famous for its lakes. There are 16 lakes in total, and those lakes are surrounded by mountains and valleys. And between those mountains and the lakes, there are lots of small, cute villages and towns with old buildings and houses, sometimes made from stone. As I said before, it's the largest national park in England. But also the Lake District has the tallest mountain in England too. And that mountain is called Scafell Pike. And the summit, the top of the mountain, is 978 metres above sea level. The Lake District also has the largest lake in England, Lake Windermere. And Windermere is 11 miles long, or 18 kilometres long. And at its widest point, it's 1 mile or 1.6 kilometres wide. Not only does it have the longest lake, but in the Lake District, you can also find England's deepest lake. Wastwater is a lake that is 79 metres deep at its deepest point. Because of its geography, the weather in the Lake District is super unpredictable. It changes a lot. You can have sun, rain, wind, and sometimes snow all in one day. Or the weather forecast can say or can predict that it's going to be sunny one day, but it rains all day instead. And also, a lot of the time, and particularly in the winter, you can't see the summits of the mountains because the clouds are so low. And if you can see them, there's normally snow on the tops. Because of its scenery and history, the Lake District is an incredibly popular place to visit. In the summer, all of the towns and villages are filled with tourists excited to see the mountains, visit various tourist attractions, and just enjoy nature. There are various museums and art galleries in the towns, and on the larger lakes there are boat tours so you can go out on the lake and learn about its history and nature from the guides on the boat. Nowadays, the Lake District is extremely popular, and it can be quite a touristy place. And while I enjoy the museums and the small towns, I think that the real beauty of the Lake District is in its nature. When I visit, I prefer to go outside the holiday months when there are less people, when it's quieter. And I don't care if the weather is bad. In my opinion, the bad weather is part of its beauty. I love walking and hiking, and I've been to the summits, the tops of many of the tallest mountains in the national park. I've camped under the stars, and I've camped when it's so cold that the ground is frozen and hard under the tent. I've swum in the lakes when they were too cold to swim in, and I've climbed mountains in the dark before the sun has come up, and ate breakfast hundreds of meters above the sea. I've done it with people, and I've done it on my own. So for me, the Lake District is a special place. I feel at peace when I'm in the mountains and connected to the earth, and I feel lucky to live close to it. If you're interested, I will put some pictures of the Lake District of my recent trip on my Patreon page. So my question for you today is, where is your Lake District? Where do you feel at peace? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. That's everything for today's episode of English with a Brew. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you did or if you didn't, and tell me what topics you'd like to hear me talk about in future episodes. And don't forget, if you want to support this podcast and get access to all of the exclusive episodes, you can do that on my Patreon page. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time it is where you are right now. Take care.